Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 22 of the Rookies podcast. My name is Tyler Matute, and in this week's episode, we're doing something a little bit different. As you all know, this past year has been a roller coaster with the pandemic. However, at Cosmos, it's given us the opportunity to work with people from all over the world and expand our rookies pool. Today, I'm super excited to be joined by my fellow rookies and good friends, Noah Sutherland and Yannick Lareine, to share their experiences with sport, as well as provide some insight on international sports and their transition into North America. So welcome to you both. Let's get right into today's topic by getting you guys to tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, as well as your background in sports. Noah, why don't we start with you?
All right. Hey guys. Hey Tyler. Hey Yannick. So my name is Noah Sutherland. I'm a Jamaican national, but I grew up in Abu Dhabi for most of my life in the Middle East. So I'm quite an international background. I came to Canada in about 2017 to pursue my undergraduate here. And in terms of sports, my background, soccer was my main sport growing up. Played soccer from when I could walk pretty much to this day. I did play a bit of rugby as well growing up. That's my sporting background.
Yeah. What's up, guys? Really happy to be here on the Rookies podcast again. So my name is Yannick. I'm originally from the small island of Mauritius. If you guys don't know where it is, it's a small island of the east coast of Africa. Pretty nice, pretty chill. Google it up if you guys don't know it. It's pretty cool. So my background is sport. Similar to Noah, I've been a soccer fan for most of my life, especially English Premier League, Manchester United fan, as you guys can see. But I also practice a few other sports. I play badminton competitively. Recently started kickboxing, which is like super different from any of the sports I've done before. Super cool, super chill as well. But yeah, I think it was a couple of years ago that I decided that I want to, get into sports management, sports marketing. Found Cosmos and any other opportunities that was out there. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, guys, thanks for that. It's great to hear a little bit about your backgrounds, where you guys come from, and the sports you're interested in. Yannick, like you mentioned, you were able to find Cosmos this year for your internship. And like I said, with the pandemic, it's been one of the positives we can take is being able to work with each other all across the world. I don't think I've gotten the chance to meet Noah and Yannick in person, but over these last couple of months, we've developed professional relationship and friendships. That's been really awesome to do with these guys. So kind of touching along the internship experience, why don't you guys both tell us a little bit about the experience of doing your internship from another country and different time zones? How's that been?
Well, for me, it's been cool. I really like it. There's an 8-hour difference between Toronto and Mauritius. So when you guys start at 9 a.m., I start at 5 p.m. and I end at 1 a.m. So I kind of, you get used to it and it's fine most of the days, but some days, you're a little bit more tired or like it's not a good day. And that's when it's a bit harder. But in general, it's been really good. I think the team has done really well to get me gelled in. I can now say that, Tyler and Noah are my friends, along as with the other rookies. And our supervisor, Mike, done a great job to get us really gel with the team. So it's been really cool. I can't complain. It's been a great opportunity until now, and we keep on doing the good work,
All right, so for me, it's not as exciting. I'm in Jamaica, which is only an hour difference. So instead of working 9 to 5, or would you say, Yannick, 5 to 1 or something?
Yeah, 5 to 1.
I'm working 8 to 4, so it's not too big of a difference. However, in the like recent months and weeks, there's been events that some of the employees have been going to, like Toronto Rush games. Some of the properties that we have, they have their seasons have been started and they've had fans. So I've seen some of the rookies and employees going to that. And obviously that's something that I've missed out on, which is kind of unfortunate. But it's nice to have the opportunity to work with Cosmos because of all the experienced people in the company. And that's obviously something that I couldn't do because I'm in Jamaica, if it wasn't for online work, of course. And yeah, they've done a good job of making me feel included, even though I've never physically seen anybody at the company.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. There's obviously some down parts to the online stuff. Like you said, the events you can't really attend and stuff like that. But overall, I agree with you guys. It's been a great experience working all together. And kind of shifting gears a little bit to the sports that you guys kind of knew growing up. in the countries that you guys were born in, what sports are the most popular or the ones that are really most closely followed?
Well, for me, in Jamaica, the most popular sports, obviously soccer in both Abu Dhabi, the UAE is the largest country. The UAE and Jamaica, soccer is the largest sport in the country. It's the largest sport in the world, obviously. But Jamaica, it's more so soccer, athletics, because obviously we're very good at running. Cricket's also a very big deal because we have the West Indies there, like the West Indies team. And in the UAE, it's more soccer. There's a large influence of British and South African people. So, and Australians and New Zealanders as well. So rugby is a very big deal there too. Mixed martial arts has become a very big deal over the past about 20 years, I'd say. The UFC has a major print in Abu Dhabi now because of their massive, like, they're pumping a lot of money into martial arts there. So that's another big sport over there.
Yeah, I think similar to Jamaica and Abu Dhabi, I would say soccer is the biggest sport in Mauritius, especially the English Premier League, which is like followed by most people, if not pretty much everybody follows the English Premier League, right? Because the local competition in Mauritius is not that good. It's not that competitive. So people prefer international sports. Obviously, international competitions, World Cup, Euros, and Olympics, or like the African Cup of Nations or any African kind of athletic tournament is very followed in Mauritius as well. And we participate in the African tournaments. It's a bit harder to follow like North American sports because of the time difference, right? For example, an NBA game is going to be at like 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, and like not everybody's going to be waking up to watch, I don't know, Chicago Bulls against the New York Knicks at 4 a.m. in the morning, you know. Be like playoffs, you'll get more people obviously watching because it's more interesting, but it's a bit harder for North American sports. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Time zones definitely play a factor into what you're able to really take in on a day-to-day basis. But it's kind of cool to see a different perspective on different sports, like you mentioned, like cricket, athletics, things like that, even UFC. That when you ask someone typically from North America, the sports you hear most often are usually hockey, baseball, football. But you know, we're really diversifying into soccer and stuff as well. But it's always cool to see, you know, what's popular throughout the world. One thing that a lot of people talk about in terms of their experience at sporting events overseas is the fan experience. And I've actually experienced a couple different times events overseas that I can touch upon after I get your guys' opinion. But what are some of the characteristics that you can tell me about the fan experience and dynamic at sporting events that you guys have seen in your home nations or overseas?
I would say personally in Mauritius, any international competition, like I mentioned before, is really big. So we have what we call the island games in Mauritius. So it's a couple of islands, well, like 7 islands in the region. It also includes Madagascar, which is like an island most people would know about, right? Maldives as well, Mayotte, Seychelles kind of thing. So it's a lot of islands. They come and we compete in like different sports, athletics, football, basketball, volleyball kind of thing. And this is really big because like everybody's kind of on the same level, you know, and they can really compete with each other. 2 years ago in 2019, Mauritius actually hosted the Island Games, and you couldn't get a ticket. You had to like book tickets like months before, you know, and like the atmosphere was like crazy. The fans were like super passionate because it doesn't happen that often. So if you have good competitions, people will come to it. Sometimes it gets a bit overboard, you know, there's like a lot of chanting, drinking, drums as well. And sometimes you gotta like calm people because they get very passionate. But it's all in good fun. And as long as it doesn't go overboard, we like it, you know. We like the passion and the dynamics of it.
So the fan experience in, I guess, Jamaica and Abu Dhabi, I think it's very much reflective of the culture in both countries. There's a lot of singing, lots of chanting, lots of dancing too. For Jamaica, I think every level of sport in Jamaica has some sort of following. So even if you go to high school soccer, there's a very big deal. Something called Manning Cup. It's a high school tournament. It's a very big deal. There, people obviously have their alliances to their school, but even at a level like that, there's massive crowds. Lots of people come out and engage. But then obviously when you go to the higher levels of the sport, if cricket, if there's ever a cricket game in Jamaica, if the national team ever plays, same thing with Abu Dhabi, if the UAE national team ever plays, lots of chanting, lots of dancing, lots of singing, obviously in the UAE, more Arabic singing, but it's very much reflective of the culture, I think, in general.
Yeah, I like the way you said that. I feel like in my experience as well, it's been very reflective of the culture. In 2007, I was able to go to the Copa America, which is kind of the equivalent of what we saw this past summer with the Euros, but for South American teams. It was in Venezuela, which is where my background's from. And I was able to see a couple matches. And like you said, Noah, it's just a lot of singing, dancing throughout the entire game. People not even watching the game sometimes. It's just that passion is really exuberant and vibrant and reflective of that culture. And I've been to sporting events in North America as well, and it's very similar in terms of the passion level. But I think, like you said, it's just a little bit of a different experience. Similarly, like Yannick, I'm also a Manchester United fan, so I was able to go to Old Trafford in 2017 to watch a game, and it was very similar as well. Lots of chants the entire time. People very very passionate about their sports over there. So I think, like you guys mentioned, everywhere has its own way of kind of showing that passion, but it's what makes it its own. You know what I mean? So it's always great there. So kind of sticking along that same line there, what were your initial thoughts when you guys came to North America and maybe first experienced sports here? You can touch upon the fan experience. You can also touch upon the models or formats that we kind of see and how they differ.
Well, there are definitely a lot of things. I guess when it comes to fans, singing isn't as much of a thing here as it is overseas. People don't tend to sing. It's more like, I guess, chants or just general cheering. As for like the model, obviously overseas, anywhere, I guess most other leagues, there's promotion relegation. Like there's more than just a single division. While here in North America, it's NHL, NBA, NFL, they're the set league. However many teams are in that league, that's the set amount. There's no moving up and down. That was another thing. And then obviously the playoff format is another thing that doesn't really exist in overseas. It's more so league style. You play X amount of games, and then the winner in the X amount of games is the ultimate champion. Well, you guys would have that would just, I guess, just be your regular season, and then you obviously have the playoffs later on.
Yeah, I think personally, I would say for the fans kind of experience, I would say the passion is the same, but like expressed differently kind of thing. You know what I mean? So it's all about the culture, right? Like how you grew up, like supporting your team, and I think it's all fair and in good fun. But as Noah mentioned on the formats, I think it's like very different formats, but I think it worked well for the culture and like the countries. Like I wouldn't change how the NBA is, or I wouldn't change how the Premier League is in Europe, right? I would keep it exactly the same. Nothing beats like the playoff format, like playoff games are like crazy. And for the league, when you have like a relegation battle at the end in the Premier League, or like a title race for like the final weeks of a season, that is like what you're waiting for. Like as a fan, that's what you want your team to be involved in that battle. For the English Premier League or in the NBA, you want your teams in the playoffs. Even if you finish like 8th in the league and you're through to the playoff, it doesn't matter. You still believe in your chance to be there. And even if you're like a couple of points off in the league, you still believe that, yeah, you can win the Premier League or this kind of thing. So I think the format works well. The model is good, and I like it in general. Yeah.
All right. One thing I'll say about coming to North America, when I initially came here, I didn't quite like the idea of no relegation, because I remember watching the NFL season and teams were trying to tank. Basically, the fans didn't want their team to win games so that they could get a higher draft pick. And to me, that was just kind of it's unheard of, pretty much. Like you want your team to lose as many games as possible. That just seems kind of ridiculous. And then also like the playoff format, I also thought when I first came here, what's the point of a regular season when you have the playoffs? For some teams like the Lakers in the NBA, like why are they bothering with a regular season? Because they're obviously going to make the playoffs. But then once again, if you ask a North American, would you want to change that? They would 100% say no.
Noah, kind of building upon that, would you say your perspective kind of changed? Like when you first came and you were kind of unaware of the whole draft system and getting different picks and playoffs, would you say as you kind of got more accustomed to watching the sports and maybe even being a fan of them, did you kind of start to enjoy that format a little bit more for what it is?
Definitely. I really like the draft idea. I think there's a lot of great things about North American format. I definitely like the idea of a draft. It's kind of it hypes you up, the draft. Playoffs as well. It's leagues in general are just like it's over so many, like a long period of time, while playoffs it's a lot more intense. and then everything that happened in the regular season is just thrown out the window, and then it's just intensity for a month or two, which is cool. I'll admit, I do like it.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of like Yannick said, I think that I'm a big fan of both sports, overseas and as well as my home in North America. And I think each is really good for what it does. And I think it's been like that for a while. And it's why they're each so successful in their own right. So thank you guys for those questions kind of on your background in sports. I kind of want to switch gears now and talk about something that when we actually started our internship was a very, very big topic of discussion. And that is the European Super League. So for those of our viewers who don't know what the Super League is, I'll kind of give you a quick overview, and then me and the guys will get into a chat here and give our opinions and thoughts. So essentially what the European Super League was, it's an annual competition proposed by 12 of the biggest soccer clubs in European soccer, or football as they call it. And it was created to rival UEFA's biggest competition, which is the Champions League for club competitions. The announcement received immediate backlash and disapproval from fans, players, coaches, and really anyone involved in the sport were really not too happy with the announcement and the formation of this league. That backlash actually caused the majority of the clubs to withdraw from this league within a couple of days of the initial announcement. And they also did things like issue public apologies to their fans and made commitments to reform from the highest levels. There was a number of different issues with the Super League, but the biggest kind of points of criticism were first, this kind of concept of elitism, and then also the disregard of the history of the soccer in these countries, particularly with that pyramid hierarchy and competition that exists and that promotion relegation we were talking about. So guys, with that, I believe the announcement was last April when we this April when we first heard about it, and we were all kind of in shock. So I know you guys are big soccer fans. What are your thoughts on the Super League, and what were you kind of feeling when you first heard about it? What was going through your minds?
Yeah, well, I'm just gonna stay straight out there, but I didn't like it personally. I didn't think it was like a great idea. I thought that, like I mentioned before, the Super League is kind of like more of a North American kind of format without relegation. So you'll get these 12 teams who would be in the Super League every season and would compete against each other. Like, it's obviously interesting to have like the best teams play against the best teams over time. But at the same time, I think one of the most important things about European football in general is like the ability for everybody to win, to reach to the top. And I think Leicester is the best example, right? So they got promoted to the Premier League from the Championship. The Championship is the second division of the English soccer leagues, right? So they got promoted to the Premier League. And in the first season, they barely stayed in the league, by like a couple of points or kind of thing. And then the next season, they went out and won the whole league, on like odds of 5,000 to 1, which was like crazy. Something I've never seen in my life. I don't know if we will see something like this ever again. But with the Super League, then this kind of thing wouldn't have ever happened or wouldn't even like be possible. And also, you get to fight for Champions League places, which is like the major European competition in Europe. And with the Super League, the Champions League would have become irrelevant. And so those teams who want to get into the Champions League, well, it wouldn't be the same. And it just like changes everything, And that is why we don't like it. And as fans, we like how the game is. Of course, the game can always be improved. Or whether that is basketball, soccer, football, or any leagues can be improved, I think. But you have to find ways where like the fans are happier about it, because every other day, every football fan, soccer fan comes in to watch 90 minutes of football, right? And they want to watch 90 good minutes of football. And that's the most important product out of everything.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't like the Super League either. I remember a few years ago, like 4+ years ago, that talks of the Super League were going on, that these big football teams like Real Madrid, Barcelona, they want to create their own exclusive league. And there were always rumors about it, constant rumors about it, but I never thought it would ever actually come to fruition, or at least be proposed, come to the light today, to be honest, because I thought there's no way that these teams would ever think that fans would accept this, because essentially what you're doing is you're taking 12 teams, putting them in their own bubble of exclusivity and prestige, and just allowing a lot of teams below them to essentially die, to lose lots and lots of money from revenue and essentially just die. And one thing about, I guess, non-North American teams, I guess international teams, is that a lot of these teams, like Man United, for example, were initially made up of railroad workers in like the early 1900s. Same thing with Manchester City. Manchester were like a church group that were doing initiatives in the city to stop violence. Like a lot of these teams, majority of these teams that you know of in European soccer and soccer in general were very much for the people. It was for the average person. While in North America, a lot of these teams, their franchises, they're created by a billionaire to make money and obviously have a good product, but at the end of the day to make money. So yeah, the Super League was trying to make, you know, the Manchester Uniteds, the Manchester Cities into a Dallas Cowboys, into you know, a Lakers, a team that will forever hold their prestige no matter what happens. And yeah, it's sick in football because that's not what the fans want. Removing any sort of competition. Obviously, you'd have the competition in the Super League, but removing competition at basically any other level. Yeah, fans said you're killing the sport, and it was nice to see a lot of fans stand up and protest, like Manchester United fans break into the stadium and protesting on the field. Countless fans across the world, across Europe, protesting outside their stadium, saying we do not want the Super League, and that's probably why it came and went within a matter of days.
Yeah, I agree. No, it's something that I've never seen before. I've never seen like a decision, especially in the sports setting, be like completely almost 100% opposed by everyone involved. And usually, especially in European and soccer and different sports, you really never see the players or the managers of those teams come out and say anything about the business dealings with the clubs. But for this occasion, we saw very, very prominent players, the biggest names in the world, openly kind of say, no, we don't want this. And I think that really changed the perspectives of those teams who initially wanted to form the Super League, and it made them realize that, you know, maybe we weren't in touch with our fans and our players as much as we thought we were. And I think that a positive can come from that. We know now that the Super League is currently not happening, and I think that that dialogue between fans and club and stuff like that is going to really improve the game going forward. Kind of touching upon that, do you think there's any other reasons you could think of why there was so much outrage from fans of soccer in Europe, but also all across the world? Because for myself, I live in North America, and even in North America, a lot of us were upset about that announcement. So why do you think that was? What are some of those reasons you think that fans were so upset?
Well, I think for people like Utah, I think a lot of North Americans have kind of adopted that the way of soccer, and like the way that Europeans view it. I guess that's just the way that the world views how soccer should play. I know a lot of people have kind of issues with the MLS because they don't have a promotion relegation format. But another reason why fans were probably outraged, because I know in the modern day, like, money is so important in football, and like there's a lot of owners that come in to kind of make these teams, you know, money making machines. And then a lot of fans believe like they're not being heard anymore. Like ticket prices increase. A lot of fans are very upset about that. And yeah, fans feel like they're not being taken into consideration probably as much as they were, you know, 20, 30, 40, 60 plus years ago. So I think this was just like, it was just so obvious that they did not take the fans into consideration whatsoever. That it's obvious why they were outraged. They didn't feel like they were included in the decision. They feel like this was just the owners just undermining them, I believe.
Yeah, and to add on what Noah is saying is like there's a lot of emotion involved. You know, like if you think about like people who are supporting like League Two, like kind of Division Two teams, you know what I mean? They go like every weekend. They get season tickets and they watch their teams like every weekend. And like one season, they might just like have a couple of good chances, you know, get a good manager in, a bit of luck, and they get promoted, you know, kind of thing. And for them, they're like, oh, we got promoted. Maybe we can join the European elite, you know, be in a European competition. And then somebody just comes in and put the Super League in. It's like, yeah, you pretty much can't do that anymore. So people will like get angry, you know, you're like, oh, this is kind of like a passion, your religion kind of thing. This is what you work one week super hard, and then on the weekend you go to a game and have a time of your life. You know what I mean? And now they just take that away from you kind of thing. So yeah, a lot of emotions, I think, which led to that outrage.
Yeah, for sure. Those are both great points. I think one cool, interesting thing to note as well is for people who aren't really familiar with soccer overseas, not just in Europe, because everywhere apart from really the MLS has a promotion relegation and that kind of hierarchy system. I think a lot of people will ask, be like, so there's only one team that wins. There's no playoffs. Like, what's the hype about? What else is there to compete for, right? Is there nothing else? And those European positions in different places in the league to get into the Champions League or the Europa League or now the Conference League is super, super big for those clubs who come up from lower levels, right? And I think the biggest issue that fans had were those lower level teams, like Noah said, would slowly start to die out because they thrive on the ability to get into higher leagues and perform at a higher level and continue to develop. And with those 12 secluded teams in the Super League, that would kind of all evaporate. And I think the long lasting effects of that would be really unfortunate. But yeah, like you guys said, those are all good points. And I think, Noah, you mentioned something about ownership. And I think that's kind of a big topic that we'll dive into here in this question. So I know, for example, at Manchester United, I would say 15, 20 years ago, they were taken over by the Glazer family, who is from the United States, and they also own and operate the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that kind of trend has been increasingly growing in soccer, especially in England. I know Liverpool is owned by the same group that owns the Boston Red Sox and stuff like that. Do you guys think that kind of dynamic of people with a more North American background in sports taking over these clubs has been a key factor in the disconnect that seems to exist between the club's hierarchy at the top level and also the fans? Like, do you think those are kind of related in any way?
Yeah, I think one of the big problems is like, as fans, we understand that like a club has to like, make revenue, they need to have profit. Like we get that, you know what I mean? And it is a business as well. And I think like now that we are all more in sport management, Tyler and Noah, we kind of get that part a bit more. But I would also say, like I mentioned before, at the end of the day, it's 90 minutes that the fans want to come and watch. Like it's a game, it's a football, it's a passion, it's a religion. People love it, right? And I think some of the owners, they might not see it like this. They might see it as a business only. And you have to take into consideration that like fans don't act rationally because this is something that is close to their heart, right? And they don't act rationally because football is not a rational game. Sports is not rational, That's why people love it. And if you don't take that into consideration, if you take a football club or any other club in general as just a business, it's not going to work. You're not going to understand the fans and you're not going to get the best product out there. And there's going to be outrage and things like the European Super League is going to happen and it's going to go like this. People are not going to like it. Yeah.
For me, I feel like the Super League occurred because the owners felt like they could undermine the fans, as I stated before, without any significant consequence. I don't think they ever could have predicted that the fans would have risen up the way they did. And I feel like they just thought it would just be a passing things. Maybe there might be a bit of outrage, maybe not. It would pass through and then 2 years from now we'd have the Super League and no one would be complaining. That's how I believe that they thought. And yeah, they just didn't take into consideration how the fans would truly feel. And I guess that does show the disconnect. And obviously there is a great North American influence coming into the game. And I guess a more profit-minded influence, because there are obviously the North American owners, but there's also like the owner of Real Madrid. He's a very profit-oriented person as well. So yeah, I think they just were trying to undermine the fans and thought they could do it.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely a crazy, I would say, 2 weeks in the soccer world on social media, and every talk show was talking about it. Fans were going crazy. It was really something I'd never seen before.
And you update every hour?
Yeah, pretty much. Not even like one team leaving, one team coming back in. It was crazy. Really something I never experienced. I guess for me, the one positive I can kind of take from it is I know a lot of clubs have put into place different fan forums and trying to get the fans more involved with decision making, which is definitely something that had to be done to kind of mend those fences that were broken with the announcement of the Super League. And kind of along those lines, if we have to play devil's advocate, I think we all kind of showed that we were kind of against the Super League, but playing devil's advocate, did you guys see any potential positives that could have came from the European Super League? Was there anything, maybe that was a good idea or that could have led to something bigger? If there's anything you can think of?
Well, if you're looking selfishly, like I'm a Man City fan, we were in the Super League. Obviously, Yannick, you're both Man United fans. They were in the Super League as well. From a selfish perspective, there's far more money that probably would have come from a Super League simply because you're playing these big name teams all the time. There's probably far much more money involved. So your team would become more profitable, and then your squad would be a lot better than it probably is now because you could afford far more better players. And I guess you'd have a higher quality product as well if you just sectioned off 12 teams and just you play the best football every week. I guess it would be a higher quality product.
Yeah, I guess like playing against the best team every week is like kind of a big thing, but like at the same time, it would kind of get boring. You know what I mean? Like, let's take the example of the NBA, right? Regular season, when the Nets play against the Lakers, like with the actual team right now, you know, in the playoffs, that's a crazy game. In the regular season, it's not that crazy, you know, and I think it would have been the same with the Super League. But to play devil's advocate, I would say maybe some clubs like now to win, you kind of like need money, right? You need to invest in your team to like buy the best players. Like that's what we've seen with City, Chelsea. You know, City won the Premier League last season, investing more than 100 million pounds. Chelsea invested 200 million pounds, won the Champions League. United this season invested 100 million pounds. So did City. So did everybody else. You know what I mean? They're investing big money to pretty much win. And like some clubs, for example, like I like to take the example of Arsenal because they used to be a big club. Well, they're still a big club, you know, they have a big fan base, but like they don't perform that well. But until 2015, they were pretty big. And now, because they don't have as much money, they can't really compete with other teams, right? There's also mismanagement that happened at Arsenal as well. But I feel like for them to be in the Super League, it would make sense to like get more money and be more competitive. Because right now, they have a lot of fans and they're not really the fans are not really pleased with how they're run because they can't really compete. And with the Super League, it would have made a lot of sense for them. But I feel for like City, United, Chelsea, and Liverpool, it didn't make that much sense because like they were teams which are, you know, doing better or like growing, and like they have a financial pool to like still be competitive. And that is why I don't get why they got it. But maybe for like Arsenal, Tottenham, or even Barcelona, who are like in $1 billion in debt right now. Like that would have been great for them, you know. So yeah, in that sense, it would make sense for them.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the point about Barcelona. Like, the Premier League is in a very fortunate position where they do make a lot of money on like TV broadcasts and stuff. But Barcelona, Real Madrid, even PSG, all these teams are in financial troubles, especially because of COVID. And so obviously, I guess Super League secures finances for years and years.
Yeah, but just for them, right? Not for everybody else. That is the thing.
Exactly, just for them.
Yeah, for sure. I think those are some great points. I think one thing, I know soccer or football is the biggest sport globally in terms of people who watch it and enjoy it, but I think one positive that could have came from it is you're always looking to expand, right? Even if 95% of the world watch soccer, you want to get to 100. And I think potentially for those people who weren't really into it, the Super League could have provided that quality, like you guys were mentioning, for those people to kind of really get into it, watching the top teams compete on a weekly basis. So I think that's potentially one positive that could have came out. But like I think we all agreed here that the right decision was made in the end. And for now, luckily, the Super League is halted, and hopefully we don't have to deal with it for a little bit longer at least. But yeah, guys, I want to thank you very much for your time here and your opinions on your perspective of international sports, your background, North American sports, as well as the Super League. To end off our podcast today, we want to try something a little bit different. We're going to do a segment called Quick Fire Questions. How it's going to work is I'm going to ask you guys a series of 5 questions. I want you guys to just answer with the first thing that comes to mind. Not too much time to think or prep, just first thing that comes to mind. So how it'll work is I'll ask the question. I'll get Noah to answer first, Yannick to answer second, and then I'll also give my opinion as well. All right, so we'll get started here. Yeah. So Noah, number 1, your favorite international sports team and your favorite North American sports team.
Well, favorite international sports team is the greatest team in England, which is Manchester City right here. favorite international sport team for sure. Favorite North American sport team probably has to be the Toronto Raptors. I've started to love basketball, and then the Raps, obviously, the Canadian team.
Cool. Go ahead, Yannick.
Yeah, that was lies about the greatest English team. Manchester United is the greatest English team, and as I mentioned, that is my favorite international sports team. For North American, I have to go Lakers because I like the Lakers. You know, I know it's kind of cringy, you know, United and Lakers, but you know, it is what it is. It is what it is.
For sure. For a favorite international sports team, I have to agree with Yannick. For me, it's Manchester United. And North American sports team is kind of hard to pick. I love them all, but for me, it's got to be the Toronto Blue Jays. Next question, Noah, your favorite international athlete and your favorite North American athlete.
Just put it out there. United haven't finished above City in about over 10 years, I think now. Just putting that out there. Maybe exactly 10 years. I have to put that out there. Favorite international athlete. Yeah, my favorite international athlete is definitely Lionel Messi. I think he's I could talk to him about him for hours, but I think he's just the best football player that I've seen in my lifetime. Most enjoyable football player to watch. Just the natural talent and ability that he has. And as for favorite North American athlete, probably Fred VanVleet. I love Fred VanVleet so much.
Cool.
He's small, but he's like so effective. And yeah, I hold him close to my heart because he was really bad in the playoffs at one point. Then he had his child in the playoffs.
Yeah, I remember
and then
that.
he played amazing, and then the Raptors won the championship.
Cool. Yannick, how about you?
Favorite international athlete, I cannot think beyond Wayne Rooney. I think he's the one who really got me into soccer, especially Manchester United. He's the greatest United player for me personally that I've seen play. And North American athlete, LeBron James, big LeBron James fan. I think he's the GOAT. I haven't seen a lot of Michael Jordan before and, people before, but from what I've seen, LeBron James, best basketball player. Yeah.
Cool. For me, I'm going to go with the most recent favorite athletes because the list can go on and on. But for me right now, my favorite international athlete is Paul Pogba, who plays for Manchester United. And my favorite North American athlete is Odell Beckham Jr., who plays for the Cleveland Browns in the NFL. The next question, before you guys get too much of a chance to argue with me there, your favorite sporting event of all time to go to or to watch on TV. Noah?
The World Cup for sure. I think even though Jamaica haven't made a World Cup in my entire lifetime, the World Cup is by far, I think, what I get most passionate about because there's always a country that I really, really love to watch. Brazil's my go-to country because Jamaica's never in it. Brazil's always entertaining to watch. There's always have some sort of connection to some player on some team. It feels, even though it's not my country, I feel the passion.
For sure.
So yeah, the World Cup for sure.
I think I can agree on Noah on this. The World Cup, I don't think you can think beyond the World Cup. If I could go to one sporting event in my life, it would be the World Cup final, definitely. That would be it.
I think it's a global, it's like a festival for the whole world. Everyone,
Definitely.
Even North Americans that never watch soccer, they're all celebrating, they're watching, they're cheering on their team.
Definitely. I mean, for me, it's also the World Cup, but just to be different and add something else, I think the Super Bowl is also a big one for me to watch, get together with friends and watch that big event. The halftime show is always a big thing as well. Yeah, great. So number 4, will the European Super League ever return?
It's a big question. I don't think that the Super League in its format will return, but I think that the high powers in soccer are trying to find a better way to make soccer more of a spectacle in order to increase the revenue. Like for example, football, they have the Super Bowl. There's halftime show and 1,001 different commercials going on. I think European soccer is going to try and find a way to make it more of a spectacle in order to gain revenue, but I don't think the Super League itself will ever return.
Probably not in the current format, it won't return, but I can see it coming as kind of a one-off tournament kind of thing, where all the big teams kind of join and play, once in a while, they play a big tournament with all the big teams. I would actually enjoy that if it's once in a while, you know what I mean? And it doesn't interfere with any of the other leagues, the Champions League. But I think we might see something be proposed in future years, definitely.
Cool. For me, I'm just going to say what I want, and that is no. I hope it doesn't happen ever again. So I'm going to say no, it won't return. And lastly, guys, we have one more question. The question of all questions for all football, soccer fans. Last but certainly not least, Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo?
All right, I think I've already answered this question. I think Messi's the best football player I've ever seen walk the earth. I think he makes defenders have nightmares. I think he's one of a kind. I don't think anyone, at least in my modern day, there's obviously people talk about Maradona, but I don't think anyone in the modern day can do what Lionel Messi is. And I don't think there will be another player, at least for the next 30 years, that can do what he's done.
Yeah, not to take anything away from Messi. I love Messi. I think he's like one of the best, but I would definitely go Ronaldo because I think soccer, football is a team sport, right? And I think Messi is a good player, but Ronaldo makes the whole team better. You know what I mean? Like he would help a team. Like at the end of the day, you need results and you need the team to win, right? That's what you want as a fan. And I think that is what Ronaldo brings. Messi brings great individuality. Ronaldo brings the team trophies. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, and to end it off
Furious
myself,
right now.
I'm not going to talk about who's better. I'm just going to say my personal preference growing up a United fan is Cristiano Ronaldo, and that's that for me. So, well, Noah and Yannick, thank you so much for being able to join us to talk today about international perspective on sports, the European Super League, and some fun quick-fire questions at the end. It's really been an awesome discussion. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for
Thank you,
having
Tyler.
us. It was great to be on here.
Yeah, it
For
was a
sure,
pleasure.
for sure. So thank you guys again. And to all of our listeners, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Rookies podcast, and we will see you again next week.